Jai Shri Ram. Thank you for inviting me to talk about Ayodhya, a city that I have been privileged to visit it many times, study it, recreate its map, which I'm going to share today. So it's a privilege to talk about Ayodhya, the Adi Puri as it is called. So allow me to share my screen so that I can take you on a visual journey. So Ayodhya Mahatmya is what we are going to study. It's a part of Skanda Purana. But before that, let me give a quick um, introduction about who I am. I run this travel blog called In Details. This is what we do. We reach out to about our impressions are now about 5 million impressions globally that we reach, about 700,000 people on social media who follow us, a lot of things. And these are some of my books. Today we are going to talk about Ayodhya Mahatmya, which is a translation I did from Skanda Purana, and we'll quickly look at it. So my three primary sources to talk about Ayodhya are Ramacharitamanas, created by Tulsidas ji in 17th century, Skanda Puran, and Raghuvansham by Kalidas. Uh, Today we are going to focus, and of course, in the narrow lanes, in the old temples, in the traditions of the place. And I'm also a part of Global Encyclopedia of Ramayana project, which is a global project to document all kinds of Ramayana related heritage in the world. And people from as many as 140 plus country are a part of it, documenting the journey of Ramayana from India to the world as a carrier of our culture. So based on all this is what I'm going to talk about. Now, let's look at what is Skanda Purana. Skanda Purana is one of the biggest Mahapuranas. It's one of the 18 Mahapuranas that we have, and one of the biggest Puranas that we have. It has about 80,000 shloks, which makes it just a wee bit smaller than Mahabharata, which has 100,000 shlokas. It's divided into 9 khandas, which are dedicated to different deities. So Ayodhya Mahatmya happens to be a part of Vaishnav Khand. In total, it has about 990 shlokas divided into 10 chapters. And through these 10 chapters, the stories of different Tirtha Sthalas in the city of Ayodhya or in the Ayodhya Kshetra are described. Now you can think of Skanda Puran like the lonely planet of its times, where it takes you to a place, it tells you the story of the place, it tells you the glory of the place. Then it, at a very micro level, it takes you to each and every place in that kshetra and tells you a story. Now, Lonely Planet actually tells us only what the place is, where to stay, where to eat. But this also tells us why we should do a tirtha. Who are the people who has visited this tirtha before us? What's the lineage of people who have done this tirtha, and what are the punya that you earn there, and what are the things you should do there? So it's like a complete guide to a tirtha that you can do to Ayodhya. Stories, and you can listen to those stories just like stories, because you know half the characters, at least if not all of them. You can draw your own conclusions from those stories. You can draw life lessons from those stories, and you can also draw a whole lot of dharma lessons from those stories, that what is my dharma in a given situation. And I'm going to highlight that with some of the stories. It is not possible to cover all the stories in 1 hour, but I picked up a few stories which have touched me. So I'm going to take you through some of those stories. So sit back and listen. This session is full of stories. So let's start with the setting. What is the setting of Ayodhya Mahatmya? Now, when Ayodhya Mahatmya section of Skanda Puran begins, it is set in Kurukshetra. Now, what is Kurukshetra? Kurukshetra is a kshetra which is located between the two rivers, Saraswati and Rishtavati. That is the whole of Kurukshetra. A lot of times we tend to confuse it with the city of Kurukshetra that exists today. But that city is a very, very recent phenomena. That city was a refugee camp post 1947, and the city came up after that. The place where the Kurukshetra is, the ancient place there is a place called Thanesar, and there are a lot of sarovars. And just like I spoke in my last lecture, there are a lot of sarovars in that place. There is Brahma Sarovar, there is Jyoti Sar, and there are many, many other sarovars which are very important. Um, in Kurukshetra, there is a continuing tradition of going for a snan or a ritual bath during the solar eclipse. So even today, during solar eclipse, on these sarovars, there are lakhs and lakhs of people who come for the snan at Kurukshetra. So the setting of Ayodhya Mahatmya is that all the Rishi Munis from all over Bharat Khand have gathered at Kurukshetra for a 12-yearly ritual. Now if you remember, uh, the only 12-yearly ritual we now know of is the Kumbh Mela, which happens every 12 years and which is related with the movement of Jupiter in the sky. So when Jupiter enters a certain Rashi or a certain zodiac sign, we have a Kumbh Mela. And because Jupiter takes 12 years to go around Sun, the same situation in the cosmic sky happens after 12 years. That's why we have Kumbh Melas at 12 years. So this is also a Mela which happens at 12-year gap, and when all the Rishi Munis gather to, they kind of congregate to exchange knowledge. It's like the modern day version of a conference or a seminar. And it's very interesting. I cannot go into the detail, but if you read the description of the saints who have come for this gathering, you'll be surprised. They mention people, Rishi Munis who are doing tapasya in the mountains, people who are doing it in the dense forest, people who are doing it on the banks of rivers, on the coastal regions, in the Saptapuris, in all the sacred spaces that we spoke about in the last lecture. So they mention each and every sacred spot and the rishis who have come from there to be a part of this congregation. Now, what do? They've all come, they've done their tapasya, they've done their yagnas, they've taken the bath, they've met each other, and then they sit down and they ask questions, and they actually ask travel stories. It's like you and I sitting in a room and saying, okay, so you visited this place, please tell me how it is. Now, of course, we go to the Google and we find millions of people telling us how they traveled, but in the good old days when, you have to sit across the table and listen to it. So this is a dialogue between Suta, which is a very generic name for somebody who's talking, and the rest of the rishis. So rest of the rishis asked Suta that please tell us the glory of Ayodhya. So the Suta tells them as he had heard from Vedavyasa, and Vedavyasa in turn had heard it from Rishi Agastya. Now, in the Indic traditions or in our scriptures, in the modern legal parlance, it's called the concept of prior art, which means you acknowledge where the original work is and then how you have built upon it over a period of time. So this is the same concept. So the original dialogue, the original traveler to Ayodhya was Narad Muni, who told about his travelogue to Skanda. The Skanda told it to Agastya Muni. Agastya Muni told it to Vedavyasa. So, and this is the sequence, and Vedavyasa told it to Suta. Suta is telling it to the gathering of Rishi Munis, and that is what is documented in Ayodhya Mahatmya, and those are the stories. So essentially, as we read or as we study Ayodhya Mahatmya, it is essentially a dialogue between Rishi Agastya and Vedavyasa, and he's exactly telling him about his own stories he has heard at the different Tirtha Sthala within the city of Ayodhya or within the Ayodhya Kshetra. So with that setting, so imagine you are sitting in Kurukshetra and listening to the stories which are coming up. Now it begins by talking about what means the city of Ayodhya. So Ayodhya, the word Ayodhya stands for A, Ya and Dha, which stands for Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. So like I said, the popular perception of Ayodhya is that it's the city of Sri Ram and this is the city of Vishnu. And it does have few names like Vishnu Priya, Adipuri, which means the Adipuri of Vishnu. But it also has presence of Brahma and Shiva, and they are never alone. Either of these three are never alone. They always have, one of them may be predominant in a place, but the other two are always present because together they form what we call Brahman, or together they form the ultimate reality. So Ayodhya, the word itself, is composed of Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. It is said that the city lives on the chakra of Vishnu, and we'll see one of the stories related to chakra. It is a city, they say it's so pious, it's so sacred that it never touches the earth. It stays above earth. And how does it stay above earth? It sits on the chakra of Vishnu. It's a city which in the shape of a fish, Matsya Akar. We'll see in a minute how. So this is how the city is. It defines the limits of the city. It's in the shape of a Matsya or a fish. There is a Tirtha called Sahasradhara. So that's taken as the central point in the city. And then from Sahasradhara, 1 yojan to the east, which is a few kilometers, 1 yojan to the east and 1 yojan to the west till some Tirth. We'll talk about these Tirthas. This is the horizontal extent, east to west extent of Ayodhya. And then from the Saryu, it is south of Saryu, about a yojan, and north of Tamsa, which means it's sandwiched between the two rivers, Saryu and Tamsa. So we'll see in a recreated map how it picks up. So it defines, it tells us the different names of the city. Saket, Vishnupriya, Adipura, Kaushalpuri, Rampuri, Padmapuri, Punya Lakshana, Nandini. All these names have a story associated with it, but for that you'll have to pick up the book and read. Then it goes on to describe the physical glory of Ayodhya. It talks about its very, very strong ramparts, its fort walls, its impregnable security. It talks about its Chaturangi Sena, which is the Sena of 4 sections with elephants, horses, chariots, and foot soldiers. So it describes in detail the military strength of Ayodhya. It talks about its roads, which are wide and which have crossroads. It talks about its markets. It talks about, it talks about the prosperity of Ayodhya in terms of markets, mansions. Then it talks about the ponds. It talks about the fact that Vedic chants can always be heard all around. It talks about the ecology of Ayodhya. It talks about trees, birds, flowers, and then it talks about Saryu, which is the lifeline of a city. So all in all, it starts by very clearly defining what Ayodhya is. A lot of time people have this question if this is the real Ayodhya, if the real Ayodhya is somewhere in Afghanistan, or if the real Ayodhya is somewhere in Thailand, if it's somewhere else. But it so clearly defines the location of Ayodhya and where it is located on the banks of Saryu river, and including its dimensions. This is the recreated map. So if you look at it, this is Saryu. So south of Saryu, and this small little blue thing you see is Tamsa. So north of Tamsa, so this distance is about 1 yojan, and then this is Sahasradhara. So 1 yojan east of it and 1 yojan south of it, and south of it is the Samtirth, or the place where Saryu has a sangam with Gharghara river. So this sangam is called Sambhed. We'll keep coming back to this map, but this is how the Matsya shape comes into place. And we'll keep coming back to this because every story is somewhere on this map. Now, the biggest tirth in any place is the water body, like we spoke last time. So in Ayodhya, it is the Saryu river, which emerges from Lake Mansarovar in the Himalayas. It goes through the Kumaon hills and it comes down to Ayodhya, and downstream it merges with Ganga eventually. So just like Ganga is called Vishnupadi and she comes from the right toe of Vishnu, Saryu emerges from the left toe of Vishnu, making them sisters in a way. And this is also a river where Tarpana is done, so it becomes a Mokshadayini river. Now let's come to Chakratirth or Vishnuhari. So Chakratirth on the map, it is somewhere here. It's here, it's called Gopratar Ghat or Chakratirth. We are here somewhere. So Chakratirth is the story of a Brahmin. His name was Vishnu Sharma. So he came to Ayodhya and he did a lot of tapas on the banks of Saryu river. There is a long description of the kind of tapas he did. He did a Panchagni Yagya, which means during summers he would have 4 Agnis around him, and the 5th one is the sun. So in very, very fierce heat, he sat down and did his tapasya. In rainy season or in cold season, he stood in the waters of Saryu and did his tapasya. There's a long description. He did a very, very severe tapasya, and eventually Vishnu appeared before him. Vishnu gave him darshan, and as it always happens, every time Vishnu gives darshan, there is a stuti that the bhakt sings, and these stutis are very beautiful. So once the stuti is sung and Vishnu says, I'm very happy with you, I'm very pleased with you, now please ask what you want. So Vishnu Hari, and as the ultimate bhakta, what does an ultimate bhakta want? He wants his Isht to be with him always. So Vishnu Sharma says, I only want that my name should always be said with you. It should always stay attached with you, and you stay here in the form of a murti so that I can have your darshan every day. So Vishnu said, so be it. So a murti form was formed there, and it got the name of Vishnu Hari. So it came to be known as Vishnu Hari, and this murti continues to be there. Now, let me tell you, there are 7 Hari Murtis with different names in Ayodhya. Skanda Purana mentions 5 of them. We'll see some of them during the talk today. And all these Murtis have roughly this form. Only one of them survives in Ayodhya today. We don't know where the rest of them are. And this is what we created a sketch of that Murti. There were 7 such Murtis in Ayodhya, 5 of which are very, very clearly mentioned in Skanda Purana. So this is the story of Vishnu Hari. This is how, and this continues to be there. It's called, there are 2, Vishnu Hari, and one more Hari is at the same place. And you can still go and see them. They are in a very small, dilapidated temple, but it's worshipped. And I happened to meet the priests of that temple, and thankfully they are still worshipping it. And though it's a very, very small temple next to a royal temple on the Gopratar Peeth. Then the next, or one of the most important tirthas in Ayodhya is something called Sahasradhara. Sahasradhara literally means, Sahasra means 1,000, and Dhara means the streams, the 1,000 streams. 1,000 streams of what? This is a tirtha which is associated with Lakshmana, the younger brother of Sri Ram. Now, the story goes like this, that once all the works that Sri Ram took avatar for has been done, which means all the prayojan of Sri Ram's coming to the Prithvi Lok and taking an avatar as Sri Ram has been done, it was time to go back. So Kal came down to Ayodhya to meet Sri Ram so that they can mutually agree on when he wants to leave or plan his departure from Prithvi Lok. So Kal and Sri Ram were in conversation, and the meeting room was being guarded by Lakshmana. There was a clear instruction that nobody should come inside the room while the discussions are on. And whoever comes, and this is how Kal works, the Kal said, if anybody barges into our meeting room, I am going to punish him or he'll have to leave the earth. So be it. So Sri Ram put Lakshmana on the job because there's nobody more dependable than Lakshmana for him. The meeting was on. At the same time, Rishi Durvasa comes to Ayodhya. And we know that Rishi Durvasa is known for his anger. He's very quick to get angry and curse. So he came and he said, I'm very hungry and I want to eat something, and I want to eat something from the hands of Rama. Now, Lakshman knows that it's a big dilemma. If he enters into the room, he's breaking his promise and he'll have to pay it with his life. But if he does not, Rishi Durvasa may end up cursing Ayodhya. He may end up cursing the city of Ayodhya, its people. So Lakshman decides to go inside and inform Ram of the arrival of Rishi Durvasa. Lakshman enters and Sri Ram figures out the whole thing. He can see everything. So he doesn't say anything to Lakshman. He just smiles and steps out and feeds Rishi Durvasa lovingly with his own hands. Everything that he wanted to eat, he orders that, he cooks that, and he feeds him. And then he comes back. Now, there is no dialogue between Lakshman and Sri Ram, but Lakshman knows that it's time for him to go. So he goes to this place, which is now called Sahasradhara, on the banks of Saryu river, and he goes and starts doing his tapasya with an aim to leave earth. And we know that Lakshman is the avatar of Sheshanag. So the Sheshanag with his 1,000 hoods, he breaks open from the earth with 1,000 hoods. He breaks open the earth and he comes out to take Lakshman. And all the devatas park themselves in the skies to see his departure. And that's how the Sheshanag or Lakshman merges back with the Sheshanag and goes. And because there were 1,000 streams which were formed when the Sheshanag appears, the place got the name Sahasradhara, and it continues to be the most important Tirtha Sthala in Ayodhya city. There are many, many tirthas there, but this is one of the most, and it is almost in the center of the city of Ayodhya, even today, almost in the middle of the ghats that form the city, form the outline of city of Ayodhya. And like I mentioned earlier, the dimensions of Ayodhya are mentioned with reference to Sahasradhara. So this is one of the tirthas. Then at the Swarga Dwar itself, there's another very interesting place called Chandrahari. I told you there are 7 Hari Murtis there. One of them is Chandrahari. Now, the story goes like this, that Chandrama, or the moon, he came to Ayodhya once to see the city because he had heard so much about this beautiful city. So he came down to earth to see the city of Ayodhya. And he went around the whole city. There's a full description of where all did he go, and he was completely mesmerized by the city. So he decided to do some tapasya, do some puja. So he sat down and again worshipped Vishnu there, and Vishnu appeared before him. He again sang all the glories. And when asked, "What do you want?" he again said that I want my name to be always taken with your name. And that's how the Chandrahari. So Vishnu again manifested into one of the Vishnu Murtis, which came to be known as Chandrahari. And it was supposed to be there. This Murti no longer exists in Ayodhya. It may be somewhere in the world. Hopefully it is there, but it's there. Now, the a very interesting part of this Tirtha is that this Tirtha is known for something called Chandra Sahasra Vrat. There is a typo here. It's called Chandra Sahasra Vrat. What is Chandra Sahasra Vrat? I've often faced this question that Indians do not celebrate their birthdays. They do not celebrate the milestones. In terms of age, we don't celebrate. And then I found this Chandra Sahasra Vrat, which is celebrated when you have seen 1,000 moons, which means 1,000 full moons. So it roughly works out to 83 years and 4 months. So if you've lived for 83 years and 4 months, which means, and counting the solar months, which means you've seen 1,000 full moons in your life, that is when you undertake this vrat. Now, this is, although it says vrat, there is a vrat involved. There is a huge, big ritual involved where you worship the moon. You create the 16 murtis of moon in gold, if possible, and then you give it away to the Brahmins there, and you do a long penance, you do vrat, and you feed the Brahmins and all that. But it is also a celebration. It is a celebration of living of a well-lived life for 1,000 moons, which you do with all your family, something that you celebrate with all your family. So this vrat, I don't know how many people still do it. I couldn't gather information, but if any of you come to know about people who follow this, do let me know. Sorry. Okay, so then there is a very, very interesting story. This is in fact one of my favorite stories. So there are two stories in a place called Swarnakhani. Swarnakhani means the gold mine. And once upon a time, they say that the Kuber did a Varsha, or the rain of gold coins in Ayodhya. It's the story of that. But there's a smaller story of a Pandit called Dharma. He came to Ayodhya, and again he did a penance. He was so, in fact, he didn't do penance. So this is the story of a common man, a common simpleton called Dharma. He came down to Ayodhya and he was ecstatic. He was ecstatic. He started dancing on the banks of Saryu. He was so ecstatic that Vishnu appeared before him. And in the same way, just like we saw the story of Vishnu Hari and Chandrahari, there was a Murti called Dharma Hari with Dharma and Hari name coming together. So this is a smaller story, but the biggest story is of Raghu. Raghu was the great grandfather of Sri Ram. So Sri Ram's father is Dashrath, his father is Aj, his father is Raghu. And that's the name Raghu Vansh or Raghukul Nayak or Raghu Veer comes from the king Raghu, and he was one of the very, very illustrious kings of Ikshvaku Vansh. So the story goes like this. It's a very, very interesting story. This is one of my favorite stories from Ayodhya Mahatmya. So it is said that Raghu had won the whole world. So he was the king of the whole world. He went for a campaign, military campaign. He came back with lots of riches, lots of money, lots of land, lots of everything. He returned to Ayodhya with lots of riches, and he called. Now he has a lot of money, so what to do with that money? So he calls Guru Vashisht and he says, I've got all this. Now you tell me, I want to do a yagna. You consult with your fraternity and tell me which yagna should I do. So Vashisht goes back and talks to a lot of Rishi Munis, and he comes back and said, you should do Vishwajit Yagna. That's something to commemorate the fact that you have won the Vishwa. Vishwajit means somebody who has won the world. So Raghu says, so be it, let's do it. So, and he calls Rishi Munis from all around, and they all do this Vishwajit Yagna, and Raghu gives away everything he has got. He literally gives away everything he has got in this yagna to the rishis. He's not left with anything. Now, once this ritual is finished, the rishis are still around him, but the ritual is finished, he sees that coxumuni, he's another muni, a coxumuni comes to his palace in Ayodhya. Now, coxumuni, as soon as he comes, he's welcomed by Raghu and he washes his feet. But he washes his feet in a clay pot. एक मिट्टी के बर्तन से वो पानी लेते हैं. He takes the water in the clay pot and washes the feet of coxumuni. And coxumuni from this judges the fact that he's given away all his money. He's left only with basics because he doesn't even have a gold pot to pick water, or a silver pot, or a metal pot for that matter. So Coxumuni keeps quiet. Coxumuni has come to Raghu with an intention to ask for 14 crore gold coins. Now, why did he need? We'll come to that story later on, but he needed 14 crore gold coins. And he had come to Raghu with an intention to ask for that money. But as soon as he sees the clay pot, he knows that Raghu is not in a position to give him any money because he's not left with any. So he gets up to go somewhere else. Now he needs the money, so he has to look for another donor who can give him money. But Raghu cannot accept it. So he asks Coxumuni that, what did you come for? With a lot of back and forth, Coxumuni finally tells him that I want 14 crore gold coins, but since you've already given away everything, I will go somewhere else. Don't worry, don't bother. So Raghu thinks about it. He says, a muni who has come to me to ask for anything should not go empty-handed. But it's also true that I've just given away everything. I'm not left with anything. So how do you solve it? So Raghu requests Coxumuni to stay back in his palace for a day, give him a day to arrange for money. Coxumuni says, fine, he agrees. 1 day is not too much of a time. So he says, okay. So Coxumuni stays in Ayodhya in the palace of Raghu, and Raghu takes his army and he goes to conquer Kuber, who lives in the Swargalok. So Raghu takes his army to conquer Kuber, but Kuber, as soon as he comes to know that Raghu is trying to conquer him, he makes the rain of gold coins in Ayodhya. He literally drops so many gold coins in Ayodhya that Raghu doesn't have to fight with Kuber. So Raghu comes back, and now the place where that gold coin rain happened is known as Swarnakhani. It's a very nondescript place today, but that's the place where a lot of gold coins, lot more than 14 crores, were rained. So Raghu comes back and he tells Coxumuni to take all of that. Now Coxumuni says, no, I don't need it. I only need 14 crores to give to my guru Vishwamitra. So I'm going to take 14 crores and you can do whatever you want to do with these rest of them. So Raghu gives away the rest of it to the other munis, all the munis that had gathered for his Vishwajit Yagna. He gives it away to everything. Now the obvious question is, why did Coxumuni need 14 crore gold coins? It's a very interesting story. So again has Durvasa Muni in it. So once upon a time, Vishwamitra was doing a strong tapasya and he did not want to be disturbed. A again Durvasa Muni comes and he says, I want to eat paisam and I only want to eat it from the hands of Vishwamitra. So Coxumuni tells Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra says, so be it. And he makes paisam. He makes paisam with his own hands for Rishi Durvasa. Now, when he's standing with the patra or the bowl of paisam to feed Durvasa Rishi says, wait, let me go for a bath and come back and eat this. Now he goes away, and he goes away for thousands of years. He never comes back. And Vishwamitra is standing with that patra where he was waiting for Durvasa Muni to come back. During these thousands of years, Coxumuni takes care of Vishwamitra because he cannot move from that place. So Coxumuni takes care of this. So eventually, after thousands of years, Durvasa Muni comes, takes the paisam and goes away. Now, Vishwamitra is very happy with Coxumuni. So he tells him to leave the ashram and join his grihastha ashram. He says, now you are done. You've learned everything that you could learn from me. Now you go back to grihastha ashram. So Coxumuni says, but what is the dakshina? What guru dakshina should I give you? So Vishwamitra says, no, you've done a lot of service to me. You've done a lot of seva for me. So you need not do any, and you need not give me any dakshina. They have an argument, and in the heat of the moment, Vishwamitra says, go get me 14 crore gold coins. So that's how Coxumuni wanted to have gold coins to give to his Mayank Tiwari. Paisam is a type of kheer. Paisam is what kheer is called in south of India and in a lot of Sanskrit texts. So this is the story. Now, the story is simple, but to me, it's one of the stories of everybody following their Varnashram Dharma. Raghu is a Kshatriya. He's a king. So his Varnashram Dharma is to conquer, to provide security to his people, to take care of the security needs, to earn money, to get money, riches, but not keep it. All the Coxumuni, he wanted money only for his guru and only as much as his guru needs, not a penny more, not a penny less. Everybody is following. Now, Raghu, how many times do we see examples of kings or the equivalent of kings that we have today of earning and giving it away to, let's say, learned people who can use it effectively, who can use it for the greater good of the people. How many Brahmins do we have who do not have that level of greed that you have a gold mine lying in front of you and you don't touch it, you don't take a gold coin for your personal use. So this is a beautiful story of everybody following their Varnashram Dharma, and that is when you have what we call Ram Rajya, which means you have the perfect balance in the society. That's another lecture we'll have someday on Ram Rajya and how this and the basis of that is everybody following their Varnashram Dharma. Let's move to the next story. Okay, so like we said last time also, one of the most important tirthas at any place are the sangams. So there are two sangams in Ayodhya, Sambed Tirth and Saryu Tilodki Tirth. Now Tilodki is a beautiful name. It's Til Udki, which means a black river. Til is the black til, black sesame seeds, and Udak means water, the river with black water. Now, why black water? Because this was a place where a lot of horses from Sindhu Desh used to come, and this river was for the drinking of the water of those horses, this black water. Now, we don't know what made the water black, but the name still carries on. Sambhed Tirth, because it's a Sangam Tirth, there's a lot of glory of this Tirth, and they say even Prayag, when it gets too full of the bad karmas of people who come there to wash, और जब बहुत पाप बढ़ जाता है, जब बहुत पाप इकट्ठा हो जाता है प्रयाग में, so they Prayag also comes to Sambhed Tirth to recharge itself or to get rid of all the pap. But this is something that you will hear about most tirthas around the country. Okay, so now this is one of the most important tirth, almost as important as Sahasradhara. I also attribute a lot to what continues to live. See, a lot of these tirthas that we speak about, some of them exist only in the stories. Some of them, we know the place they are, but there is nothing that continues to live. But Gopratar Tirth and Sahasradhara are two tirthas in Ayodhya that continue to live in some form and shape. Now, Gopratar Tirtha has another, like I told you, Hari Murti, which is called Gupta Hari. The story of Gupta Hari is not very different, but there was once upon a time, there was a battle between Devatas and Asuras, as it always happens. The Asuras were ruling and Devatas had lost everything they had to Asuras. So they went to Vishnu. They went with Brahma and Shiva. They all went to Vishnu in the Ksheer Sagar where he was sleeping, and they sing a lot of glories to him, a lot of stutis they do, and they request him to help regain the Indralok and everything that they have lost to Asuras. So Vishnu says, you have lost everything because your tapas has gone down. Your tapasya, the strength of our tapasya, your tapas shakti has gone down. And even my tapas shakti at this moment is not as strong as to deal with these asuras. So let me go to Ayodhya and do tapasya secretly. And once our tapas level, our tapas shakti is so much that we can deal with asuras, we'll go and fight with them. So Vishnu himself comes and does a tapasya at Gupta Hari, at a place which is secret, and that's why it came to be known as Gupta Hari. So he does the tapasya, they beat the asuras, and the suras or devas are happy. But the place where he did the tapasya came to be known as Gupta Hari, and one of the Hari Murtis also got installed as Gupta Hari, and it's very close to Vishnu Hari, the first Hari that we spoke about. They in fact located in the same premises. So this is the story of Gupta Hari, and Gopratar Tirth is, and Saryu Gharghara Sangam is also close by, so Sangam also makes this place very, very important. This is the Tirth where the Mahaprasthan of Sri Ram happens, and that is one of the most important reasons for this Tirtha being celebrated even today. So when Sri Ram had to leave, he left. We all know that he stepped into Saryu, but he didn't step out alone because he didn't come to Ayodhya alone. A lot of Devi Devatas had come with him, and they lived in Ayodhya as Ayodhya Vasis. And they all decided to leave when he had to leave. So there are a few people whom he, and everybody who was in Ayodhya then, all kinds of pranis, be it humans, be it animals, be it birds, be it Kitanus, be it anybody, they all wanted to go with Sri Ram. Nobody wanted to stay back in Ayodhya once he's gone. But there were a few people whom he told not to come with him. One of them was Vibhishan, whom he told to go back to Sri Lanka. Hanuman, and a few Chiranjeevis whom we call, he told them not to come with him, and rest everybody came with him. There's a beautiful description of how the Agnihotras, how the Yagnas, how the Panchatatvas, and everybody followed him, and they were all happy. They didn't any bit of sadness or any bit of thought about it. Everybody was happy. They were celebrating it, and they all went into the Saryu, and this is how he went back to his original form of Vishnu. So the Gopratar Tirth becomes important because this is the place where the Mahaprasthan of Sri Ram happened. Um, there is a royal temple today at this Tirtha of the of Ayodhya Naresh, and there are a lot of Tarpan rituals that happen in this place. And it's a beautiful place to take a boat ride from this Tirtha to the city of Ayodhya. So you get to see Ayodhya from Saryu, and Saryu is a very, very vast river. Then Ayodhya is full of lot of ponds, as I had shown you in the map. It is full of lot of ponds, and every pond has a story. Now we don't have time to go through all of them, but some of the ponds like Sita Kund, Rukmani Kund, Rati Kusumayudh Kund. So for example, Rati Kusumayudh means Rati and Kamdev Kund is a story when they came down to Ayodhya, and they created this kund, and they say that, you know, a couple, a Pati Patni, should go and take bath in this kund together. There is Brihaspati Kund, which was created by Brihaspati, and this is a place where people go for any dosh, any kundali, any Brihaspati dosh in their kundali. Then there is a Dhani Yaksha Kund. So I'll tell you a small story about Dhani Yaksha. So you'd remember that Raja Harish Chandra, who was also an ancestor of Sri Rama and a king of Ayodhya, he had given away everything to Vishwamitra. He had given away everything and gone to Kashi and sold himself there. We know the story. But what happened is that all his wealth was in Ayodhya, and a yaksha was appointed to take care of his wealth. And that place where that yaksha used to guard that all his wealth is called Dhana Yaksha Kund. There's a long story, but I'm just telling you the reference of that story. Then there are a whole lot of Devi Kshetras in Ayodhya. There is Shitala Mata, there is Bandidevi. Now, Bandidevi is a very interesting name. Bandi means a prisoner. So this is a Devi of the prisoners, people who are in prison of any kind. It could be a physical prison, or it could be a mental prison, or it could be a psychological prison, but she's a Devi for people who are in prison. Then there is Chutaki Devi. So interesting part, I couldn't gather much about it, but you worship her with chutkis. So you go there and you do chutki. So she's called Chutki Devi. There's a Mahavidya Tirth. This is a place I have visited. So there is a Mahavidya Kund, and there are a lot of there were a Mahavidya temples around this area. So there is a Sukshma Devi Kshetra in Ayodhya, which is not often spoken about. Then there's a place called Nandigram. Now this is technically not a part of Ayodhya city. It is slightly on the outskirts of the city, and it still continues to be on the outskirts of the city. Now this is a place where Bharat lived when for 14 years Sri Ram was in exile. So he refused to stay in the city. So he made a small kuti for himself, and he stayed there. And this is where twice Hanuman and Bharat had a milan. So the milan that you see is not is a milan between Bharat and Shri Hanuman. So they met twice. Once when Hanuman was going to fetch the Sanjeevani booty for Lakshman, and second when Hanuman came over to Ayodhya to inform about the return of Sri Ram. So he first comes to Nandi Gram, and he tells Bharat about it, and then the news is sent to Ayodhya. There is a Bharat Kund there. There is a Gaya Koop there. Now Gaya Koop is a place where a lot of tarpan, lot of last rites are done, a lot of tarpan activities done. If you visit it during the Pitri Paksh, you will see hordes and hordes of people from all over coming, even today, coming to do tarpana. There is a very interesting kund called Jata Kund. This is close to Nandigram. And this is the place where, after his return from exile, Sri Ram, Lakshman, and Bharat, they cut their jatas. So, and in the forest, they were living like a sadhu with jatas. So before entering the city of Ayodhya, they cut their jatas, they let go of their sannyasi garb, and they re-entered the life of a prince or of an urban dweller, if I can say. And this is the place. So this kund is still there, and it's called Jata Kund. Eventually, in the end, in the last chapter, uh, you know, they say that, all these tirthas are fine, you should do. There are a lot of rituals. I have not spoken about the rituals. We'll briefly touch if time permits. uh, Eventually it's your manas tirth. Which are your manas tirth? Satya, which is truthfulness; kshama, which is forgiveness; dana, charity; indriya nigraha, control of your senses; sarva bhuta daya, compassion for every kind of life. Every bhoot would mean even anybody, not just your own species. And jnana tirtha. So the knowledge tirth, and tapah tirth, and the tapasya. So if you have all this, you really don't need to go anywhere. If you follow these 7 things, then your body itself becomes a tirtha. There is a falashruti that those people who listen to this Ayodhya Mahatmya, they also get the punya of visiting Ayodhya. So some of you who listen to the whole talk today will also get a small punya of visiting Ayodhya. Now, let me briefly touch about the Tirth Yatra part of it. So the 3 primary things that are prescribed at a Tirtha Sthala is Snan, which is a ritual bath, which does not mean a bath actually, it means a dip in the holy waters. Dan, which is charity; and Tapah, which is doing tapasya. So Snan is very simple because there are water bodies. Every Tirtha has a water body associated with it. So you go and take a dip in it. And then Dan. Now, very interestingly, there is a whole list of Dan which is there. You could give away food, clothes, gold, cows, land. A whole lot of things are prescribed. Each tirtha has a list of things that give you the maximum benefit if you do that charity. Now, what's interesting is that you're supposed to give the charity to the Brahmins who are there who help you with the rituals. Now, what is also important is that what kind of Brahmin should be given a charity. Not every Brahmin should be given a charity. So they give a very long list of the Brahmins who should be given a charity. Brahmins who are engaged in studying Vedanta, studying Vedas, chanting Vedas, who are not greedy, who don't ask you for anything, who are poor, who really need the support of your charity, are the ones you should give. In fact, very interestingly, there are certain tirthas where they say you should give to a Brahmin couple, not just a Brahmin man. So Brahmin and Brahmani, both of them should be given. A lot of places the cloths are given a lot of, so donating cloths, new clothes, not the old ones, or not the ones that cannot be used. So giving good clothes to as a dan, annadan, water dan, all kinds of dan are mentioned. We'll someday do a talk on dan. And then of course tapa, where you should go and sit and do tapa in a place because it's a tapasthali. Then there is a calendar of all the utsavas, fairs, and annual yatras. We've recreated this. Hopefully the Ayodhya administration will use it effectively and recreate these festivals. So one of the most important festivals that still happens apart from the Ram Navami, there is a Kartik Mela that happens. So from Kartik Shukla Ekadashi to Kartik Shukla Purnima is a period which is known for Kartik Snan. This is when the Devatas get up, Tulsi Vivaha happens, Dev Deepavali happens. And this is a time which is celebrated at all tirthas. So Pushkar has a Kartik Mela, which unfortunately now we call Camel Festival, but it's a Kartik Mela. Uh, Kashi has Dev Deepavali, which is again a Kartik Mela, Kartik Purnima Mela. So even Ayodhya has Kartik Purnima Mela, where people from all over the place come. And though it is not described in Skanda Purana, but there are 3 or 4 yatras that are done during this time. There is a Panchakoshi Yatra, there's a Choda Koshi Yatra that is done in Ayodhya even today, especially during Kartik Mela. So with that, I'll just walk you through some of the images from Ayodhya. These are the Ghats of Saryu in Ayodhya. Saryu Aarti is performed. Again, Ghats of Ayodhya. There's a video which I'll leave you a link with. This is the Goprata Tirth. This is the royal temple I told you. The small temple you see on the side, this has the Vishnu Hari and Gupta Hari Murtis. This is the temples of Ayodhya. I think we are done with the time, so we'll talk about these temples some other time. This is a very, very interesting tradition in Ayodhya. If you are interested, the temples in Ayodhya have a tradition of singing Ram Dhun and non-stop. There are temples where they have been sung for decades together non-stop, and it goes so organically. You go there, sit there, somebody is singing, you join, you take over, and it just happens. This is the Vishnu Hari Murti I was telling you about. Yeah. So these are my contact details for anybody who's interested. And that if there are any questions, I'll take.
Yeah, if anyone has any question, you can just shoot now.
नमस्ते अनुराधा जी।
नमस्ते।
आपने भरत कुंड और नंदीग्राम की बात करी, तो मैं मैप में चेक कर रहा था, जो अयोध्या सिटी है तो भरत कुंड उससे काफी दूर दिखा रहा है, तो नंदीग्राम वो मतलब फैजाबाद के काफी नीचे की तरफ दिखा रहा है, तो इज इट सो या ये पूरा अयोध्या का ही पहले पार्ट था और अभी क्योंकि
So Nandigram was always away from the city and it continues to be away from the city. It is away from the cities. It was not a part of the city limits. And it is even today not a part of the city limits. I mean, unless the city grows now because of Ram Temple, it is very far away.
Anuradha ji, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. Now I am really eager to pick up the book and read, which I delayed for so long. I want to ask you about the Vishnu Hari Murtis you talked about. You showed the Vishnu Hari Murti. How many more Murtis you said that there are still in Ayodhya? So
in Ayodhya, there's only one, which is at that Gupta, temple close to Gopratar Ghat. There's only one, but there were 7 such Murtis. I have the list of those Murtis. We'll talk about that. I mean, I have so much material on Ayodhya that we can do many such talks. But Skanda Purana mentions about 5 of them.
Thank you. And the other thing which you asked about the 1,000 moons, in Tamil Nadu, we have the Sashtiyabda Murti, which is celebrated by elderly couple when the husband attains 81 years of age.
81?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is Sadabhishekam.
Sadabhishekam, sorry. Sadabhishekam, yes.
Okay. So, but 81 refers to what?
No, completion of 80. You mentioned 83, but it is generally celebrated at the completion of 81 years of age.
So I'll tell you why. Because there are 2 ways to measure your, 1,000 moons. One is lunar cycle and one is solar cycle. So Skanda Purana mentions solar cycle. It actually gives both the calculation. So if you take lunar, it actually works out to be about 81.
Okay, that is very much part of the celebrations here, the 81, yes.
Okay, so it makes sense because if you follow the lunar calendar, then it definitely works out to be less than 83 years. But if you can find out how they work out, why 81 and why do they work out, maybe we can find a correlation.
I can say a few things on that. It is actually called Chandra Darshan, 1000 Chandra Darshan. And Chandra Darshan is on the Tritiya of the third day of the thing. And which typically in a lunar calendar, which we call it as a Chandra lunar darshan in a year. So, and if you compute that, you will get this. So it actually works out to be around 81 years. It depends on because there are months. So that is how it comes roughly around 81 years, 11 months.
Okay. Yeah, so there has to be some calculation, and I can see that it's related to again 1000 moons. Now you can consider that as full moon, or you can consider that
it is 1000 moon. It is 1000 Chandra Darshan.
Yeah, but Chandra Darshan is like in a month you have Amavasya to Purnima, so it has to be one of those dates. Chandrama we see every day, so it has to be. So in Skanda Purana it takes as Purnima. Anyway, so any other question that I can take?
Anuradha, Janani here.
Namaste, Janani.
Very nice to see you, and thank you so much for this wonderful trip as usual to Ayodhya. I've not been there, so definitely I'm going to pack my bags and go there and experience all that you have said. Thank you so much. It was wonderful, really.
Thank you. Thank you.
But anything about Ram as a young child and all that, not that much, is it? I mean...
Not there in Skanda Purana. So today we were talking only about as it is mentioned in Skanda Purana. But when you go to Ramayana, half the Ramayana is about his Leelas. So, yeah. So in fact...
But what I mean is in the Skanda Purana there, when the conversation that is happening in Kurukshetra, they are talking about the...
No.
They don't mention anything?
No. So in fact, their goal is to take you through all possible sacred spots in the city and give you the story associated with it. So I didn't touch upon Ram Janmabhoomi, which is mentioned, but it's mentioned in a very passing way. It's not like it's described a lot. So it says there is an antargriha in which Sri Ram was born. If you remember the map I had shared, there is, at the center of it is Ram Janmabhoomi, but it is not described in detail. So, in Skanda Purana and in a lot of Puranas, Ram is one of the many illustrious kings in that lineage. But in Ramayana, it's like zooming into his times. It's like, you have this long list of illustrious kings, but in Ramayana, you zoom into the times of Sri Ram, and it starts with his birth and it finishes with his return to Ayodhya in some places and with his Mahaprasthan in other places. So Ramayana and all the literature which is on Ramayana has a lot of Sri Ram in it.
Yeah, so the thing is, we are so conditioned, to think that if it's Ayodhya, it's only Ram and that the thing. But, this Ayodhya Mahatmya, tells you so much more about all the things, all the Tirthas and all the rest of the important stories there. Amazing. Thank you so much, Anuradha, and really good to see you back in such good action. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. So Subramaniam ji, you have asked in Nandigram, there are two places mentioned in Bharat Tapa. So there is a Bharat Kuti. So there are 2-3 places in that, but they are all very small little temples. One is a Bharat Kuti, which is recreated, which is obviously very recent. It is not ancient. There is a temple dedicated to Bharat and Hanuman Milap, where you see them hugging each other. And then there is Bharat Kund. Now, like I said in my last lecture also, in all these Tirtha Sthalas, what is important is the Kund, the water body, which essentially is the ancient part. All the structures that you see have probably come out later, and whether he did tapas at place A or B or C can always be questioned. the Tirtha is the main place where he would have taken the dip in the waters and then sat down for tapa. I hope that helps. Any other questions that I can take?
More questions?
Not the question, but I have a little detail to share. Because my father's ancestral village is near Ayodhya, it's like 40 kilometers from there. So the region's language is called Avdi. And because Tulsi Ramcharitmanas is also in Avdi, it is very much loved there. And you might have heard of Akhand Path, which is done in like 24 hours. So whenever it is held, there are actually two groups who are doing it. One is the like a Brahmin or anyone from the family. He is sitting and continuing. If he has to rise, another one will continue. It is not broken. And then there is a musical group which is outside in a tent or something, and they are singing. Anyone can join them also. But one guy who is doing it inside, there is only allowed one person who is continuing.
Yeah, so there is a, like he said, there is a tradition of Akhand Ram Nam Jap and Akhand Ramayana, which is a very common thing in North India to have a Ramayana part where for 24 hours continuously you sing the Ramayana. It's not even read, it's sung. And these things were meant to be sung. They were never designed to be anything else but sung. It's like a long stuti.
When will you recommend us to go there? I mean, which is the best month and how long will it take to go through all these places?
So if you want to go to all the places mentioned, you need to spend at least a week to 10 days. I spent about 10 days there. Okay. But if you want to do a quick trip, like most people do, then you go from Lucknow in the morning and you do the main 3-4 spots which are very close by, and you come back.
Okay. Because most places are a good month to go. Like.
So a good month is, of course, the winters are good, but you can go during Ram Navami. It will be crowded, but Ram Navami, Diwali, Kartik Mela, these are the times when the Utsav is on. Otherwise, November to February is good.
Thank you.
Any other question before we say Jai Shri Ram?
I hope there is no more questions. So maybe we can, we took actually as much as questions we could within a time limit. I would like to thank Anuragaji for the session. Thank you so much, everyone. We can now wind up a session with a Shanti Mantra. Let's all chant together. Om Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you once again, everyone. Namaskar.
Jai Shri Ram.